Hey, everybody. This is the scene outside of the H2O studios here on Public Square in Watertown, New York. And I'm Glenn Curry, your host today, with my business partner, Josh Kirnie. Josh, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Well, what we're here for is to talk about Josh's his own podcast, which is the Get Real Podcast. Explain what Get Real Podcast is.
The Get Real Podcast talks about making change in your life and stepping out of denial, right?
Okay.
Out of, as Zig Ziglar would call it, out of stinking thinking.
Okay.
Extreme highs, extreme lows. A lot of people want change but don't know how to get it.
Right.
And in the past with the Get Real Podcast and its first incarnation, we did discuss with some people in a format that's not nearly as professional as this one, how they plan on getting it.
Thank you very much for that plug there. Go ahead.
Here at H2O Studios in Watertown, New York. So we talked to those folks about exactly what they wanted and how they planned on getting it. And that's what we're going to explore here, both today and in every episode. We'll have some interviews with world-class change workers from all around the country, all around the world at some points. And they'll give their take and the things that they find can help evoke the personal power in people that want to achieve things.
All right, well, let's first establish the most important element here is that you are part of a society. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's it.
Okay, for hypnosis to explain it, because you're much better about this.
So all of the hypnotists in the MHS belong to the National Guild of Hypnotists, which is the largest body of hypnotists in the world. Inside of that, we have our own I guess club. It's our own organization called the MHS, which stands for Master Hypnotist Society. And you have to work really hard to be accepted in. So right now we have 35 trainers and I believe 4 master trainers across the country. And under each umbrella we have clients at different stages of development and what they want to do.
Okay, so, but what I'm accustomed to, only because I'm a moron and I should know more about this through Josh, but in the beginning when you and I...
I don't think you're a moron.
Well, thank you very much. In the beginning, I would just think that hypnosis had all to do and nothing else to do other than to lose weight, stop smoking, stop habitual things that are bad vice in your lifestyle, but it's a lot more than that. Is that right?
That's true. So, to be honest with you and the viewers, people are under hypnosis 24/7. That's how society...
I'm under hypnosis right now.
In and out, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From the TV, from the radio, from the mass media, from driving.
Facebook.
Right. Social media. Driving a car is a big one. Transit's a big one.
Interesting.
So you automatically go into that brain wave when you go into different activities that are natural or automatic.
Right.
So it doesn't take much to zone out in front of the TV.
Right.
Get sucked into a story on the news that might trigger some kind of emotional response, which is the way that you're designed. So what we do is we actually help people become unhypnotized, to be aware of what's happening around them. And that will allow them at the same time to take action, set goals, and have an outcome that they desire. All
right, so this is how I read that. And I tell you, as a creature of the 60s and 70s and 80s for that matter, I grew up watching a lot of sitcoms, and I thought about this because I believe I need to be reprogrammed, and here's why. I grew up watching 30-minute sitcoms, or what we called situation comedies, or just shows, where they had an introduction, and then they had a problem, and then you had to resolve it at the end in 30 minutes with a couple of commercials.
22 minutes,
With 22 minutes of programming within a half-hour block. And because of that, and seeing repeats of The Odd Couple and The Honeymooners and Batman and Robin and all these shows, I started thinking in my adult, as I became an adult, I said, you know what? I just think the whole world works in 30-minute increments. Is that a good assessment right there?
I would agree.
Yeah.
So it's also not just that. It's that, and it's also, think about pop radio or top 40 radio with everything being 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Exactly. And that's
when we expect to get resolution.
All right, so then you're saying that we need, and correct me if I'm wrong, we need to be reprogrammed in a sense, almost like what Katie Couric said about Trump fans. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Go ahead.
Unhypnotized.
Yeah, unhypnotized. Yeah, all right, so but that's
through
not
hypnosis.
Through hypnosis. So, all right, so the Get Real Podcast, if you will, the Get Real Podcast. And by the way, did you come up with that name? That's an interesting name.
I stole it from somebody.
You stole it? The Get Real Podcast is basically telling people, it's like, look, you need to be reprogrammed. Get real with your life. So am I right on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what are we going to learn from the Get Real Podcast?
Well, there will be tools, teasers, things will make you think and evoke things out of your imagination and give you some responses. So we too want some emotional responses, right? And most of the time, 90% of the time, those will be positive responses that will be followed by action or investigation. And 10% of the people are always going to be pissed at you anyway. So
Right.
So it's going to maybe irritate 10% of the people, and those people deserve to change as well. If that is what they need in order to push them into change, we'll take it. Right. Now, remember too that I say this to a lot of my clients, especially smokers, right? People that want to kick something that can go away like that.
Right.
So stubborn people want to fight. The good thing about stubborn people is that arrow gets moved towards what they actually want, their goal. Nothing will stop them. So the same step-by-step process they use to push against something or push against you is the same one if they switch the goal. They'll be so willful that they'll get what they need no matter what happens. So they're just as celebrated as folks that come in and placate you, or they're not celebrated, but or people that come in that want to do what you ask them to do.
All right, so someone comes in and says, hey, I got a bad vice. I got to stop smoking. But you know what? I love to smoke. I've been smoking since I was a kid. It was allowed back in the day, but now I wake up feeling miserable. But I don't want to quit. So then you must ask them, well, what the heck are you doing here to begin with, right? I mean, how do you deal with that?
I make sure that they're sincere about quitting smoking for a good reason. And then I let them know that they're not broken.
Okay, so and everyone, it's okay to it's okay to be this way because we're all human. And cigarette smoking is habitual, and I think it's addictive. I think it's a lot more than that. But you get into the inner mind and explain how you do that. How can you stop someone from smoking or eating too much? Explain how you do that in a nutshell.
I really invite them to follow me into a place where they can stop smoking because I can't go there without their permission. And there's ways to brainwash people, and we actually have a list to show people when they think they're being brainwashed. Really? And it includes dominating their life. So you have to be able to dominate their sleep cycle and dominate their eating cycle. And the whole pain-pleasure thing has to be confused. So when they do something good, in order to brainwash somebody when they do something good, you give them very little praise or give them a chore that they tell them it's special because they did something good. And if they do something they do something bad that's hardly bad at all, it's a very slight misstep, then you come down on them harder. That's how you brainwash somebody. So you can't do that within 45 minutes. You don't want to. You don't want to make people do stuff. So you have to make sure that they're willing to give it up. You have to make sure that they're willing to know that what they're receiving from that vice was actually good, which is a tough one. That's where you cross the line. That's where if they follow you across that line, they'll pretty much get whatever they intend to.
All right, but again, and I've been speaking to you, obviously above and beyond the fact that you take care of people's, I keep on referring to it as a vice. Smoking cigarettes rather, are just bad for you. Drinking way too much diet soda is bad for you. And I see a lot of women who are overweight just insist on drinking Diet Coke. So when someone like that comes in, and do you give them fundamental advice? Like, it's like, hey, drinking a lot of Diet Coke is bad for you. Do you give them some dietary advice on top of the conditioning aspect of it?
Well, I don't do the dietitian thing, but I mean, it's widely known that you can look anywhere. You don't have to be educated in it to know that the ingredients in diet soda causes certain types of serious health problems. So
I agree.
Yeah, you can, when it's appropriate, you can let them know, but it's really not, that's not what really, it really comes down to them because we don't grab people and just pull them in, and there's other things people ask for too. The vice thing, the emotional compulsion component, right? Actually the ritual, let's say, everything that we do is run by rituals. So I recently was working with somebody and it only took a change in venue for all the suggestion they received over the last few years to just all fall into place at once, right? So all their habits changed as soon as they moved from one side of the city to the other.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, I can't promise that,
right,
but it's definitely a possibility.
Okay, so someone literally just moved from one side of the city to the other, and that changed their
physical habits were changed because they had to get up at a different time.
Right.
They had stairs in this house.
Right.
They had to move from one side of the house to the other in a different way. So honestly, if somebody's watching this right now that wants to make a change, start simple. It's like a Chilton's manual. Make sure there's gas in the tank before you scream that the car won't start so it's broken forever, right? So just move your dining room around.
Interesting.
Or set your alarm clock for a different time.
Not everyone has the luxury of moving. But let me just let you in on a story. I've been drinking Gatorade 2, G2, less sugar. You know, what I said earlier. It's so funny when you see a Diet Coke. It's still sugar. It's still bad for you. So I think women especially drink more Diet Coke, thinking that it's good for you, right? Because it's less of the regular Coke or Pepsi, whichever. I fell into the same mode. I got the G2, less sugar, but I loved it. I bought the grape version for years now. For over 12 years, I've been drinking Gatorade, and then the local convenience store near me changed hands, and they stopped selling it. And I asked the clerk, I said, what happened to the G2 grape? Oh, well, we're going to get some later, blah, blah, blah. So my habit stopped.
Yeah.
And if you might have not have noticed, but I lost 13 pounds in the last month.
Yeah.
Just because of that. And,
hey, good for you,
yeah,
man.
Well, thanks. And now by the way, nothing fits me. But at the same time, I realized that here it is. I'm saying, oh, look at her drinking Diet Coke. You know, I'm a typical guy. I'm an idiot when it comes right down to it. I was doing the same thing. So a small little adjustment that I had no control over. They stopped selling it because they changed hands, but it changed my life, Josh.
I believe it. Yeah. So that stuff is poison.
It is poison.
It's got the red food dye in there.
Yeah.
It'll change your behavior.
It's funny.
Distinctly.
Someone that you and I know who's into health and whatnot, Carrie. She used to see me drink it all the time. Says, you know, that stuff is poisoning. Look at all the all the stuff that's on the label. It's supposed to be good for you, because all of our lives watching football, Gatorade was the thing. But at the end of the day, it's not, apparently. So all right. So then you have someone that changes their life simply by moving from one side of the town, moving to another house, or moving the furniture around. Is it that simple, Josh? Is that what it's all about?
It's not always that simple.
Yeah,
but it can be.
It helps. So what is the number one way to get people to change their ways for the better based on what you do?
The number one way?
Yeah. I mean, what is the number one way to say, I keep on coming back to this, reprogram or recondition someone to do the right thing as opposed to what they're falling in stride.
You got to see it from the beginning. So you have to ensure that their focus is in the right place, and that they can receive what they need to with or without the bad behavior, so it becomes almost arbitrary.
Okay. All right. So, and explain how, if you will. Give me an example.
An example of the first step of having somebody change?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody comes in and they're having problems with sugar, I would ask them, well, is it more important for you to lose weight and look good and have balance in your life?
Right.
Or is it more important to get instant gratification in front of the TV?
Exactly.
By eating a Hershey's bar.
Right. Well, okay. And then someone should honestly react to that because they came to you to begin with because they have an issue.
Right. All those things are cleared up by the time they get there, because I talk to them on the phone and I talk to them in the waiting room, and then I make them I don't make them, but they fill out paperwork. So the table is set, and I'll be able to know whether or not they're going to follow my instructions, or they're serious, or there's somebody that's going to sabotage them, and they need to clear that up first, right? They need to think about it. Remember how much cheaper everything, or less expensive, how much less expensive everything we do is than what the problems are. I mean, Forbes did that study about 5 years ago, and it said that all across the country now, in general, for every 10 pounds you want to lose, it costs you, if you're 10 pounds overweight, it's about $1,000 a year. So every 10 pounds, another 1,000.
Really?
And that includes trips to the doctor and medicines, and not just the crap food that they're eating. So everything that we do pales in comparison to that price tag. So it comes down to commitment, right? And I mean, I'm of the belief that we're in the softest version of humanity itself right now.
Well,
I think we're coming out of that and going.
You got to explain that. What does that mean?
That means that we don't have to get up and worry about dying every day.
Right.
We don't have to get up and kill our dinner. Right.
Right.
And there aren't as many standards to our life as there once was. So, I mean, people fall into the easy thing to do quite quickly. So you got to choose your hard. Do you want to have to be on oxygen and in a wheelchair because you can't walk, or you've lost a leg to diabetes, or in 20 years, or do you want to go to the gym now and have that endorphin rush from pushing yourself on a machine, or with free weights, or God forbid an elliptical or something?
Yeah. So okay, so it's a compromise. I mean,
you have to choose your hard. Yeah.
But from from speaking to you, you have to qualify the. Can we call him a patient or client? What are we calling him?
It's a client. Yeah,
it's a client. Okay, so you have to qualify them, because you don't want to walk into an alleyway where you don't want to be at with this person if they're not serious about it. You could determine that with the preliminary interviews of any client that walks in.
And it's when you get to a point when you get used to it, because it's been thousands now, what you want to see is if you're watching this and you're a younger clinician or just started hypnosis or only been doing it a few years, there's like degrees. So you realize that if they're pushed to a place where they're going to think they're going to lose something quickly, and it's too far, if you push them over the edge, or they go into overwhelm, or they feel threatened or backed into a corner when they lose something. I mean, at what degree does that happen? At what subject? There's all kinds of different factors in there, and you don't want people. I mean, you want people to come in and want to be focused on change and have fun with it and have a good time, because it's not a dentist's office. But at the same time, if they're asking for a large scale overhaul of their life, which I just helped somebody perform this in the last couple of days, and actually 2 in the last week. They've got to know that they have to be stretched. They have to stretch their behavioral flexibility. They have to stretch their life. And a lot of times you are going to push them in a place where they can get a little nuts. And that's just regular people walking down the street. That's not even people that you would send off to a psychologist or something. So when people think that something's going to be taken away from them, and I'm not talking about friends or family or anything like that. I'm talking about behaviors or emotions or something like that. When you start stepping on those sensitive areas, you've got to know first and foremost in that consultation if you can handle it, or if you've got to stay away from those things initially, or when it's going to be fair game. Now, the person that the 2 or 3 people that I plan on having in here, when we're going to have in these next few interviews, are one of them in particular is an absolute master. I've never seen or heard of anyone doing it as well as he does. And he can string out the long game. He can string it out for years to the point where somebody finally feels comfortable enough to give something up. And it shouldn't always take that. Ideally, you'd want to, if you want to make a change, you want to be able to level the fact that, like, I'm not, either you get busy living or you get busy dying. You might as well make the choice. You might as well make the jump, because you're going to die anyways. But he can do that. He can gauge it. And even if none of this is an exact science, even if it goes sideways one way or the other, he'll still be 2 steps ahead of it. And be able to get in front of it and help them make the change still. And the thing is, when people act out around him, the level of forgiveness he has is, I've never seen that before either. So
good stuff.
It's a lot like horse training, from what I've been told. Like, the horses are so big and strong when you're dealing with these like guttural, like baseline emotions that are usually even cloaked as survival instincts. You're leading this horse around in a barn, and if it steps on your foot, you just got to push it out of the way. And if it goes one way, you just act like it's supposed to be going that way anyways, right? So you can't ever let that emotion think that it's in charge, and you just guide it out to a point where it's in a tame place, and you can operate it.
Talking to Josh Kirnie from Alternative Hypnosis, also North Country Hypnosis, and you're also about to open up a place in Kansas City.
Oh, it's already open.
It's already open. Sorry. So are you looking out there? Is someone coming?
I'm looking
in?
at the time.
Oh, looking at the time.
I was
like, we have all types of things here at the studio
in this wonderful building.
So, when you're talking to clients and when you're talking about it right now, it sounds like there's a lot of therapy part of this too. You're almost like a psychologist to your clients.
I would rather not.
No, I know that, but it seems that way from the surface.
It would seem that way because they want to make change, but also remember, these are everyday changes, so it's not like somebody has been diagnosed by a doctor. So if anyone does come in to have alleviate something that's been diagnosed or something that's extreme, we instantly refer them out.
Right.
Or we before we refer them out, we have a dialogue with their doctor, and their doctor tells us what they expect, and we work in conjunction with that. It's not designed to be surgery, so it's not designed to be medical, so or therapeutic in that sense. So it's actually a fun place, and once people can get over and push through what they're going through, they have that feeling of elation, just like anybody that makes a change or does something in a high impact in a gym and makes a big change in their life,
right,
or achieves anything. They have that rush of endorphins. That's why people, and about 80 to 90% of the people, keep coming back, because hypnosis makes you feel good naturally. So the way that it shifts everything around, in the way things simplify, and you realize that all the pressure you thought was there is really just an illusion. And sometimes people need that pressure. So as long as they need that pressure to change, as long as they feel that pressure, or it seems like over intense, they're going to keep doing it until they want to change it, until it starts taking a toll on their body. So it's almost like a tipping point. And then they realize that the only reason why they ever felt that hyper feeling of stress was to get them to take action. And once they realize they don't need that to take action anymore, then they can make a shift in what their step-by-step process to achieve things is. Process is.
So, all right, the Get Real podcast, you're going to have guests. Are you actually going to have clients to talk about, their success
Yeah, I've had them
rate,
before. If you look on, we'll be sharing this on the Get Real podcast page. And we do have guests on there that were public speakers. We have people that call themselves, we don't call them, but other people call themselves healers. And we've had former clients on. We had somebody on from a TED Talk once. And it was a good time. This will be a better time.
Yeah.
So I would tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. How many sources do we have?
What do you mean? How many?
I mean, you can find us on like at least a half dozen.
Oh,
pages,
right.
right.
Yeah, you got this. You got H2O Studio.
Yeah.
You got your own Get Real podcast, and there's different outlets, and that's the beauty of social media. But sometimes you get littered with too much information. So we want to drive the message here. That hypnosis isn't just for cigarette smokers and people that want to lose weight and avoid being diabetic for the rest of their lives. It's a lot more than that. Let me ask this a question, though, Josh. Should we all be under hypnosis? Is everyone, I guess, a candidate for hypnosis?
Well, remember, involuntary hypnosis happens every day, all day. So,
right.
But not everybody's a candidate for clinical hypnosis, and that's the truth. So there's a certain step-by-step process that has to be undertaken in order to...
Because you have to want to be.
Right, and you have to be able to follow instructions, too.
Right. All right, so is it getting bigger? I mean, I know you're expanding, and you got a new place out in the Midwest and whatnot. Are more and more people reaching out to someone like yourself?
It ebbs and flows. I mean... there was a void in Kansas City when we got there.
Yeah.
With effective hypnosis and the way that it's run in the correct way. And I noticed that probably a year and a half before I got out there. So we first got out there in March,
of last year,
February of this year.
Okay. Yeah.
And started, and there's a lot of skepticism. So that makes me think that there's been a couple of hypnotists out there that weren't very good.
Yeah, and again, you see all these traveling hypnosis shows. So lose weight, stop smoking, $40,
Sure.
And then they sell you a lot of vitamins, or something like that, Josh. So you got to avoid those.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the gentleman, Mark Patrick, I think his name is, he's successful, but I do know that they do sell vitamins in the back of the room.
Yeah, right.
And it's the same vitamins for both.
Is it
smoking and weight loss?
Yeah. So and again, people have said it works and whichever. But again, are we talking essentially? It's what you put into it, or
it's a completely different situation because he's got to deal with an entire crowd.
Yeah, big.
It's
crowd.
not him either. It's his hypnotists, and they leapfrog each other across the country.
Right.
It's almost every January 16th that at least 3 of them are performing in Syracuse.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, that's typically the time of year.
7 or 8 years. Right?
Yeah, and radio's inventory is very high at that point. They need the. I know the business. I mean, believe me.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So, but there's a reason for it, and it helps some, maybe not entirely as far as your approach is concerned.
They've got
Josh.
about a 12% success rate.
That's not a very good success rate. 12% is not very good. But again, agree. That said, we don't want to besmirch or
Oh, it's okay. He'll let us know instantly if there's something going on. I'm sure of it.
Well, all right. So, but what we're talking about Get Real podcast and Josh Kirnie. Now, again, let me just ask you, who you mentioned him before without saying his name. Was that Scott you were talking about?
Yeah, Scott will be the one.
All right. So, give us a little insight. What is Scott all about, and why is he so good at what he does?
Human change, because he cares more about people than they care about themselves.
Okay. All right. So that's a good thing. So first of all, people that are walking in their 30s or 40s on the verge of diabetes, they can't see their body parts and whatnot. And Scott would be someone that would actually say, hey, you know what? You should change because I feel for you more than you feel for yourself.
So
is it that simple?
It's bigger than that.
Okay.
He deals more with relationships and people allowing themselves to feel relaxation, to let go of shame. So the big thing is letting go of shame and then achieve the things they want to professionally and financially and relationship-wise, having balance, right? And there's a lot of notions that are illusions out there about what life should be. And it comes down to being, I would say with Scott, to being comfortable with the moment. And when you're comfortable with this moment, then all the suggestions make sense. And then it carries forth into the future and allows you to explore the things you want to explore, right? You want new hobbies, you want a new career, you want new relationships, you want more money. I mean, we do a lot of that too, not as much as Scott does. So again, everything revolves around people that come in that want to lose weight and then quit smoking. So about 85% of our clients are weight loss, but we also do corporate consultations, and most of those people that want those, we meet through the weight loss program. So we do, hopefully coming up here again soon, we'll be doing seminars in person. There's Zoom trainings too. We just don't do a lot of those.
Well, yeah, with COVID and whatnot, obviously you got to do what you got to do. But the best thing to do is in person, I'm assuming, for
what's the most fun?
Yeah, right.
I mean, for me, and I guess that's I'm just joking. That's not what is important. But
well, no.
I mean, teaching in person to me is always more fun than teaching in front of a screen. But it's you get great results from people.
I'm sure
Zoom.
you do. No, so okay, explain to me, because you got to cure my ignorance, as I say often, because I'm an ignorant person and I need to be enlightened. You have corporate seminars, so you go into you go into an office place like an insurance company, something out of the office in Pennsylvania, and I say, hey, everyone, here's Josh Kirnie from North Country Hypnosis. Why are you there, and how can you help an office setting?
Well, that's a great question, and it's actually a fun one, because from top to bottom, everybody in that setting that hasn't had some kind of formal training, neurolinguistic training or behavioral training, they will always resort to behaving the way they did when they were brought up in their family.
Okay.
So whether it's sibling rivalry or anything that could happen in the mobile model, anything that could be partially destructive, that's all going on. At once in a corporate setting, whether it's an office of 16 or it's a corporation of 30,000, I don't know.
Right.
So that cuts down severely on efficiency, on leadership, right? On people that want to achieve things and get behind the message or the actual mission. It also affects people. Now, I've had a local company with half of their C-level executives have come to me for different things in hypnosis. And this is in Syracuse.
Right.
And you would be shocked, and a lot of people that are just kind of swimming through life, or just kind of thumbing through the calendar, would be shocked at how normal and human people that are directed towards that kind of leadership, right, and that kind of position in life, how normal they really are and how many normal problems they go through. The only thing they have that's different is the ability to use goal setting as their... And to be honest with you, I'm going off on a tangent here, but goal setting is really a very, very similar function to anxiety. So it's served almost equal purpose by the brain, depending on which side you want to focus on. So the 3 of the 6 of those folks came in with some pretty ugly stress problems.
Really?
So tell you,
obviously you can't elaborate on them, but what is the typical ugly stress problem that someone experiences these days in the workplace?
It could be anything. It was life, actually. So,
yeah, right.
But it was affecting their work performance.
Right.
So, one of the people came in with ED.
Okay.
One came in with just an inherent need to scream at her children, and one couldn't golf anymore.
One couldn't golf.
He would cry about it.
He couldn't golf anymore because he had arthritis, or what was it?
No, he just couldn't focus. He had the yips, but it was so bad. The 7-foot putt was so bad with this guy that he would be in tears. And I wanted that scene. Always came back to me from The Godfather when he grabs Johnny.
Yeah, you got that. You got to act like a man. You got to act like a man. It's over. It's in 2 weeks. No, it can't not happening. One of my favorite movies. Sorry, obviously one of the best movies ever made. So
my voice is tired.
So when you're talking to someone like that whose life is crumbling because of their golf game, and they're not even in the PGA, it's not even part of their living.
Yeah,
you do want to shake that person and say, "Come on, act
perspective
like a man."
Is big, but at the same time, you have to enter their world. So to them, you could tell them that they're full of crap as much as you want, and they're just going to dismiss you.
All right. Well, okay. So in that guy's case, I'm assuming it was a man. In his case, is he putting too much emphasis on something that doesn't matter, or is that the understatement of
he's used to getting everything that he wanted, and if he doesn't get it, he's going to stomp up.
Okay. So good. All right. So that's what you tell him. Oh, you're one of those people. You don't put it in those terms and whatnot because you'd probably punch you. But
no, I ask you. I take a different approach to it. If you want to know what the approach I took with that,
go right ahead.
Well, you've never made a 7-foot putt. Why are you golfing?
Right.
Of course, I made a 7-foot putt. I'm like, well, what was different then than it is now?
Right. Yeah.
So do you remember exactly how your feet felt and how your hands felt and how your arms felt when you did it right?
Right.
But you do remember.
Right.
So
I mean, because you're a baseball fan, is it a Chuck Knobloch thing? All of a sudden, you just can't focus on a short putt? Is that what it is?
He had Yankee cancer.
Yeah. Steve Sachs, same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So,
I like Steve
did you
Sachs,
change
though.
this guy's life? Did you put him in the right direction,
I don't know.
or are you
He
working
could-
on
he
that
could
right
make
now?
the putt.
Yeah.
This is like 7 years ago. So yeah, as soon as, and much like most people that are prima donna athletes, as soon as he could putt, he never showed up again.
Why? Okay, explain that. What do you mean? So it was resolved.
He got what he wanted. Why would he want to go any further and tie it up?
Yeah. Okay. So are people looking for excuses? Is what I'm saying here? Or-
Not everybody.
Well, in his case, it sounds like. All right. So there's a combination of things. I mean, to me, you have to be. You said you want to stay away from the area of therapy and whatnot, but you're a therapist to these people. Come on now.
No, absolutely not. I got to be honest with you. Therapists, I mean, I know a few that are really good that are also hypnotists.
Yeah.
I don't know any professionally. Like I've never used a therapist. So, but I've been told a lot of them just need friends.
Okay.
So,
Therapists need friends.
yeah, they're just looking for a friend. I mean, that's what I've been told. I don't know. I mean, I've had therapists as clients before, and they seem like normal people.
No, they are. They put their pants on one leg at a time, like they say.
Yeah, I think we had fun.
So,
You know,
all right.
lost
So,
weight.
all right. So, bad things happening at the house, affecting your work, your job. You're on the golf course and you can't make a 7-foot putt. These are one of millions of things that you deal with on a daily basis. But so it must be a very interesting life being in your business.
I think it's the best job in the world.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be doing it because you are your own man. You're working for yourself. But you know what? Not for nothing, Josh. You speak very highly of Scott, and Scott is the guy. How long have you known Scott, and when will we actually hear from him here on the Get Real podcast?
Hopefully soon. I'll be with him this weekend, and we'll probably schedule that this weekend.
All right. Well, let's get that going because I know you admire Scott, and I'd like to know more about the guy that that definitely. I look at it this way, Josh. He inspires you. So my next question is this: what got you started in hypnosis? How did it all begin for you?
Well, I read a book, and the book isn't super well received.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the book, and it mentioned NLP,
Mm-hmm.
which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is just the nerdy way of saying brain language.
Okay.
And then NLP and Huna, which is something, it's like NLP, it's just Hawaiian.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me to hypnosis because hypnosis or NLP came from hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that there was a secret formula in everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and they could tap into it anytime they wanted to, it would allow them to receive what they needed to, right? Mm-hmm. I thought was fascinating. So I wanted to work with athletes, but then I realized there weren't that many athletes to work with. And working with athletes, frankly, is not that much fun.
I can't imagine. I mean,
Like if you get them young enough,
especially if
they're
it's a
humble.
quarterback for the Texans, but that's another thing altogether. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I would tell you my thoughts on that. I think that's all just rubbish, but I think that's all fake. So I don't know who he pissed off.
Yeah, at least 8 women. I mean, I think it's in double figures.
22.
Right now. Is it 22? It's 20.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
It's
behind
funny.
the
The
time.
more he won't fold, the faster like the press is piling in on him. It makes me wonder, like, something has to come out of all these situations. There has to be a positive response, or else it wouldn't happen. So somebody is muscling somebody, whether it's him or his agent or the front office, because he's just going to get traded, and people are going to forget about number 4.
Well, I mean, it's happening to our governor. I know we're off the beaten path, and I knew we would do this, but again, it's all part of the human condition. It's all part of what goes through our minds, and I look
think
at
it's
it.
theater.
It's theater. Some of it's opportunity. A young intern in Albany was, the governor, one of the most powerful people in the country, flirted with her, and all of a sudden that becomes an opportunity for her to say, "Hey, that was yeah." So I don't, again, without sounding like a misogynist, sexist, a guy with white hair. So look, we're just hearing the same old stuff again. But we are real. At the end of the day, Josh, we're people. So what we're talking about here is, people do have issues. They bring them, like I said earlier, not to be redundant, but you bring home, to work your problems, and it affects your life. Athletes, for instance, standing at the plate, looking at a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, thinking about, alimony or child support, whichever. Who knows what's going through their minds? We're all people. We're all dealing with stuff. To get into that inner the inner mind, that's what you do every day, and you put people at ease. Or am I underestimating?
Well, if it's not going to help him, I don't. I just make it worse until it gets better.
Really? Okay, so explain that.
You got to use
explain
whatever.
that. You make things worse before you aggravate them more before they start, yelling back at you and understanding, like at the end of a Perry Mason episode or something.
They have to realize what they have to associate it to what's going on.
Okay.
So they have to know how irritating it is, and that's how they ended up there.
Right.
If they try to escape it.
Right.
And they will distract out of it, and they'll even blame out of it. I don't take a whole lot of blamers, but and then, you know, the other coping stances would be placating, like just lying to you, or computing, or trying to overthink it.
Right.
And it just doesn't work. So while they're doing that, you need to play games so it loosens and they can see the other opportunities. Many people see everything as like a black and white choice. And that's where the frustration comes from. And we'll go some other time. We'll get into what the black and the white is. It's actually just, you know, something from the past. So they actually have billions of choices. Billions.
Carl Sagan.
I think you've got thousands of choices for every person there is on the planet, I would say. So think about all the flexibility it affords you. And when they see that they have choices to get what they want, and that success isn't scary, it's just something that's they've been, you know, designed to do anyways, then it's usually pretty easy. But remember, the reason why our success rate is high is because I get to choose who we work with. Yeah. So I don't just go grab people off the street.
Yeah, but, you know, sometimes you get what you get. I mean, it's like, you know, you go to the pound, you get a dog, and it doesn't turn out to be like the dog you had before, but that's the dog we have now. So when you have a client walking into your place, you know, yes, you have to make a determination of whether or not they're going to be a legitimate client. That's an interesting business you're in, because a lot of people can look, you know, like a dentist can look in someone's mouth and say, no, I can't take care of you. You're a total mess. To some degree, you almost have to do the same thing. I mean, you have to, you have to say, no, okay, I know what you're trying to get at here. But like, for instance, let me say something that I observed from you recently. I have tinnitus. And you said, oh, tinnitus clients, they're tough because why is that?
Because they're stubborn.
Okay. It's stubborn. Is that why they got...
You have neck problems too?
No, I used to. I used to have neck
stiff
problems.
Neck.
Yeah. I used to have... So, all right. So tinnitus is something that I'm afflicted with. I know it changes my disposition because it's always there. It's changed my everything. But at the same time, sometimes I use that to my advantage. I'm like, okay, if I'm unsettled, if things are not right in my life, I just blame the tinnitus. So I don't blame myself. So sometimes, is that conditioning myself to deal with it better that way?
So yeah, you're kind of, you're managing it instead of changing it.
Okay.
So
I can't change it. It's here forever.
Well, no, but that's not true. I mean, for you, maybe you can have it forever if you want, but
I wish I could get rid of it.
I've had people get rid of it in the clinic. So,
Interesting.
The thing is that it's going to go one of two ways if you want it to change.
Right.
But you got to want it to change.
I want it to change.
Either it's going to increase day to day, even hour to hour, until it blows up and you just lose it, and then it'll go away like anything else. Or you go the other direction and you slowly decide to kind of wean yourself off of it and start listening to other points of view that make sense in the moment. So, you know, I've had ringing in my ears too. I unfortunately decided not to wear sound suppressors on an airfield when I was in the military.
Okay.
That was like a thing. The only time, I don't know if you know what an EA-6B is.
No, I don't.
It looks like a wasp. It's got this neat little antenna that comes out the top, and it's got the cockpit with 2 or 4 Navy guys in it. Sailors go in it. And it's a spy plane, and they're so freaking loud. They're louder than Harriers.
Are they really?
And you've got it, or else you can't hear anything, like for the rest of the day.
Right.
Another time that I should have had sound suppressors on was in this seedy little club in Yecheon, Korea. And the thing
Only
with
the
Koreans
reputable
back
places.
then, well, the thing with the Korean clubs back then is, you know, bass has always seemed to be a big deal in certain circles here.
Right.
Well, it's treble there. So you drink enough Korean beer and soju and then stay up late at night with the treble, instead of the bass, the treble in your ears.
Right.
You can literally hear it first thing in the morning when you wake up. You can still hear the treble
from the night before, from them playing music, just like, you know, at the dance club when you get that boom sound for that.
There was no booms. It was just like high.
Oh boy, that would be very, very annoying. All right, so my scenario. I mean, 1 out of 10 people have tinnitus. So when we look at,
I don't think it's 1 out of 10, but it's going to be 1 out of 50 maybe.
Well, okay, well, great. That makes me feel a lot better. I'm
You're
1 out of 50.
special,
Yeah. Why couldn't it? You know. Anyway, I just got it like 2.5 years ago, and I don't wish it on my worst enemy. All right, but when we look at
what else was happening 2.5 years ago?
I could tell you exactly what was happening. I was going through, what was I going through? Oh,
job change.
No, it wasn't a job change. No, I was working as a general manager, and we were just about to embark on depositions for a court process that was going to actually happen almost a year later. But, you know, so a lot of anticipation. Again, I had a high stress job as a general manager of many stations.
So many things to do. you don't want to have to hear all that bullshit.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, but I mean that's gone, but it's still there.
The tinnitus is still here. Yeah.
So again, it's one of those things. But here's my point: you look out on the landscape. We're here on Public Square, and we see thousands of people walking by each and every day. But you don't know what's going through their minds. You don't know what their life is all about, and they're all of all ages. So, but are you one that can look at someone and say, "I know what their problem is"?
It's very easy to cold read people.
Okay, go ahead.
I
wish we could find someone here.
It's even accentuated now because of Michelle is a homeopath.
Michelle's a homeopath. Who's Michelle?
Michelle is my wife.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Why is Michelle, your wife, a homeopath? Explain.
Because she loves it.
Okay, she loves it.
She's good at it.
Okay.
So one of the things I have to do is read faces. So
interesting.
In addition to being able to just watch and see where people are coming from by the way their posture is, you can cold read people and start talking to them and wonder and find out exactly what their main issues are.
Is she ever unbelievably wrong on that? She's pretty accurate.
It's because it's a physical response to the body's chemistry that she looks at.
Who's the guy from The Sopranos? Steve Chappelle, the guy who played Bobby. He did that on the Jay Leno show years ago. And again, it was a comic act, but he was pretty good at it. He would stand on.
He played who?
He played Bobby. Played Bobby on The Sopranos.
Bobby Baklava.
Bobby Baklava, who I loved, and he's in other shows.
In the train shot.
Yeah. It's like, this looks good. Do
you remember when those guys
$5,000?
Well, it was him and Vito and Tony.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the actors all got like incredibly fat one year.
Yeah, right.
Incredibly obese.
Well, no, but Bob, just to Bobby's credit, that was a body mold. He wasn't that big.
So they had to have him in the running with Vito and.
Yeah, right. Oh, Vito was big, and then Vito was and then Vito went on to do the gay part and whatnot, and he did a good job.
That's a good stretch.
It was a good stretch. Yeah.
I always thought it was
arguably the greatest show of all time. No doubt, dramas at least. The Sopranos.
I think that they changed a lot of things. They changed a lot of things. I'm gonna give it to them at number 3.
No, okay, all right. Wait.
This is all human behavior, so we're in the right place.
Don't tell me Breaking Bad is either 1 or 2. Please don't tell me
number
that.
2. Well, Walter White's character was so brilliant that you can't. It was better than Tony's. It was so much better written.
Okay.
And number 1 would be the first season of True Detective.
True Detective, okay.
The first season.
Not to be confused with any other season.
Second or third.
I never saw.
Well, those were all different manifestations.
No.
So Sopranos was great. David Chase is a great writer.
Yeah. Oh, David Chase, known for the Rockford Files. In fact, you could see some of the actors from the old Rockford Files with James Garner back in the 70s.
I drove through Rockford, Illinois the other day.
Did you? Well,
and that's what That's the first thing I thought was James Garner.
Yeah, isn't that funny how that triggers the mind? All right, so we got to get back to what we're talking about here. Get Real podcast. You've done crude versions of the Get Real podcast, but now we're going to get down to business.
Not crude. Yeah, we're going to get down to business and have some real professional interviews. When he says crude, he means that the production was crude. He doesn't mean that we said the F word all over and over.
No, nothing of that.
So listen, here's the last point.
We're a step up from that. That's for sure.
Yeah, we weren't smoking cigars and looking at strippers. So the key to the Get Real podcast, and this is what I was thinking of driving up to Watertown today.
Yeah.
Is the fact that frustration is good. And I want people to be able to get real through frustration, knowing that frustration is not comfortable, but it's always the arrow. It's always the compass towards exactly when you say you want something, the frustration is the goal. The obstacle is the way, right? And that is really what we're going to talk about with Get Real. Now with Scott, I'm guessing we're going to talk a lot about shame. Maybe not. I don't know what he's cooked up. So, also, Robbie's going to have a different take on that, and I'd hope to have Robbie on soon because she's brilliant. And Dr. Burrow, who's out in South Dakota, he's also a super smart guy who's really good at this job. And he's also a psychologist. So
I thought you were going to say psycho, but
no, he's not a psycho at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's got the best roster of impressions I've ever heard.
Really?
He's really good at Burgess Meredith.
Oh yeah. Oh wait. Burgess Meredith as the penguin, or Burgess Meredith as Burgess Meredith?
As Mickey, as Mick.
Oh, Mickey, of course, from Rocky.
Too.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, you're not a billboard. Hey, I tell you, Burgess Meredith, really, his career started late, unfortunately. I mean, he did a lot of stuff as a young man. He was in a lot of old movies from the 30s and 40s, but not until he became the Penguin is when he really took off. And then you didn't see him throughout the 70s.
The Riddler was famous too.
Frank Gorshin played the Riddler. Actually, there were two Riddlers. Frank Gorshin, who was, by the way, speaking of impersonators, he was one of the best of his best impersonators ever. He did great Kirk Douglas, and then John Astin, who was Gomez Adams, played the Riddler too. He wasn't as good though. The best Riddler, in my opinion, clearly Frank Gorshin. What say you about that? Maybe you're going to say something from the Tim Burton era, but please don't say that, because to me, Batman was Adam West and Burt Ward. So that's what you grew up with. Again, that's what I said earlier.
I saw a lot of that Batman. I do think Michael Keaton is the best Batman.
Oh, okay, all right. So really, honestly, we should just stop this conversation.
He's every man.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like a Christian, I like a more physical Batman too. But I like Michael Keaton, and then I'd have to have Heath Ledger as my Joker.
Yeah, Heath Ledger was very good, but again, I'm a traditionalist. Cesar Romero was the greatest Joker of all time. Not to mention, he never shaved his mustache. All that makeup, again, back in the day when the clarity wasn't very clear back in the '60s, he actually put the makeup over his mustache. He was 6'3" too. He was a tall Spaniard guy. He was a great guy.
I would take Heath Ledger because Heath Ledger reminded me of people that have had to come through things and gone the wrong direction.
Yeah, he played a very dark version. Now, let me ask you this. Phoenix, what's his name?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Phoenix. Great actor, nutcase. But did you like Joker?
Grew up in a sex cult.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well, his parents were kind of, hippies.
River Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah. And his brother died young in the club.
They say his brother was a blood sacrifice, but that's another story.
Yeah. Well, no.
Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, and you know who else? Christina Applegate was with them that night, too. At the club somewhere in Hollywood.
I just saw her in
but at the end of the day, he died because he took way too much of what he was taking. And unfortunately, the same thing with Heath Ledger. You will say differently, of course, but I think
I don't know. Why would I say differently?
Well, you just did. You just basically said, "Oh no, he was a sacrifice."
Yeah, he's a blood sacrifice.
Explain. Why was he a blood sacrifice?
I'm not going to get that.
And that's why we love doing.
I'd have to have a character. I'd have to have a character voice. Like who is that guy? Dan Le Batard has Stu Gatz that says all the really offensive things. If we had a Stu Gatz in here, he could tell you.
Dan Le Batard, is he the new comedian sensation?
No, he's the ESPN guy that was out of Miami and had his show out of Miami the whole time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I actually
he was great on the radio, and then he went to TV.
All right. So how can people get in contact with you? From your clinic here, you're in Watertown, you're in Syracuse, and now you're in Kansas City. Now, that's a lot of phone numbers to give out over a podcast. No one's going to write this stuff down.
You can just message us.
Okay, where? Where are we going to message?
Like here below the actual post.
All right, so just listen, folks, get in contact with Josh. It's not just if you stop smoking years ago, like I did in 2001, thank God, and if you're just looking for a change in your life. And it's not going to be, love.com, although you could find love and change your life that way. But it could be as simple as talking to Josh Kirnie at one of his clinics. And again, and eventually continue watching, obviously, the Get Real podcast, because we're going to have real people on here eventually,
too,
Josh.
So much fun on this.
Yeah, so we're going to have a lot of fun.
I'll try to keep a shirt and tie on, but some days I might end up in a polo because it's warm out and it's going to be beautiful.
No time, sorry. All right. So we'll have the number placed on each and every post so people can find out exactly how their life can change. Real quick, reasonable in terms of pricing, and how long does it take to go through, or is that a weighted question you just can't answer? How do you go about it? They both
depend on who the person is.
And the reason why I ask that is because people get into therapy and says, I got to see a therapist, like Tony Sopranos. Like, well, sometimes, you'll see a therapist. I know people who have been getting therapy all their life. Is it just one of those things where, you comb your hair every day? You might as well see a therapist every day if you can afford it. And is it the same for hypnosis?
It's not. It's what we have is it's like this. There's no finish line. So sometimes it's so effective that we have to convince people they had a problem to begin with.
Right.
And that doesn't happen every time, but no matter what it is, you always want to improve on it, right? There's no reason to go into entropy. There's no reason the same cycle, the same rat race over and over again. You want to be able to improve on every aspect of your life. So if you want a new life, you want the best version of yourself, of course, smoking and weight loss are the first steps, but there's a lot, in addition to that, there are a lot of other actions you want to take, right? There's a lot of different versions of yourself out there that you can imagine, you can paint a picture of and put out in front of you. And whether you want it to take 6 weeks or you want to see yourself in a year or 10 years or even a week or a day. It all could be changed if you qualify, if you have the right mindset.
But and as far as losing weight, you just jump on a scale and say, geez, I started doing this about 3 months ago when I was 230 pounds. Now I'm at 180. I don't need this anymore. Is it that simple?
So one of the best clients that I've had, I very rarely take anyone over, or rather under 35 years old. Maybe even 40.
Wow.
Because they're still invincible.
Right.
No matter how bad it is.
Right.
Unless somebody that they love, that they've grown up with, just passed from a similar problem, it's tough.
Exactly.
So I had a kid come in Syracuse, and he was part of a well-known family in the area because they own restaurants. And the only thing he would eat at 29 years old was fish sticks, chicken tenders, and French fries. And he was shaped like a pear.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So at the end of his program, he only lost 6 pounds.
Wow.
But he had 46-inch shoulders and a 28-inch waist.
Wow.
And he was built, like, as they say, a shit brick house.
Yeah.
So that's how he changed his life. So it's a performance goal.
He looked like the dad of The Incredibles.
If you're even anywhere, I would say even under a certain age, under 60, maybe, whatever, and you're walking for exercise, if you've been stagnant for years, that's a good start. But I would never suggest that somebody just walk for exercise, because there's a part of you in your mind where you can see the way that your body's meant to be. There's a blueprint in your mind. It's
true.
And when you can explore that, I mean, you're going to feel how good you're going to feel, and how people are going to look at you is going to be night and day than what it is right now. That's what you want to explore. So you want to explore what your life can be. It's not just about losing weight. It's about shaping your body the way that you want it to be shaped, and goals that point towards performance. And then you've got to look at the fact of how much expensive it is to be overweight, to be sitting around and be lazy. And it's like a million little paper cuts. It's like, oh, I only spent $60 this week on junk food.
Right.
You know? But that's over $3,000 a year.
Yeah, that's a tremendous amount of money. Not to mention a lot of preservatives, a lot of junk that's just circulating.
I'm so glad you're off G2, Glenn.
I tell you
what,
what,
is poison. Michelle would be up here pulling you by the ear, yelling at you right now.
Wrong. What's that? Your wife?
Oh my gosh, she would be all over you for G2.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same thing again. With soda. I mean, it's Diet Coke. It's a bunch of crap in it. Not to mention the sugar, the caramel coloring. It tastes great, even though I can't understand why anyone drinks Diet. If Coca-Cola came out with Diet Coke, it wouldn't be the Coke that we know. It wouldn't be as popular. The taste is terrible. I could smell the saccharin. It's that bad.
So what did you change
thank you very
it with?
much.
What did you swap it out with?
You know what? Interestingly enough, nothing. I pretty much water, which I don't like. You know, it's funny. Water is 90% of our body as it is, 75% of the planet, and I can't drink this stuff because it's boring. But I drink a lot more water now because, again, is it true it takes 2 to 4 weeks for you to stop a bad habit or anything, or is it more than that?
Oh, I don't know.
Because all I know is
it was literally different every time.
Yeah, well, I know, but there's this, I guess, formula that someone.
I think it was 21 days. They said, right?
21 days for some. But again,
I guess that's a good average.
That could be a Clockwork Orange. You know, you're strapped down and you're going to.
They got
the right, the eyelid thing with Malcolm McDowell. By the way, I know I've said this story before, but my mom took me to that movie as a double feature with Deliverance when I was 12 years old.
Holy shit!
we walked out of the theater after Deliverance because my mom says, you know what, I that was a bit much for my 12-year-old son.
I'm surprised you ever had sex ever again.
Yeah, I know. And isn't it interesting though? Because it's true. Because when guys can watch anything. But it's very, I mean, when a guy, especially at a young age, when you watch that scene.
Being dominated by another guy?
That's squeal rough. Like a pig. That is rough. But you know what's hypocritical? Because women see violent scenes all the time in movies, rape scenes. You know, even Gandolfini had that famous, violent scene in one of the Quentin Tarantino movies.
True Romance.
True Romance. That's a horrible scene.
Quentin wrote it, but Tony Scott directed that.
Tony Scott directed. Okay, so, and Tony Scott, he committed suicide. I don't know if you knew that.
I had no idea.
And Ridley Scott is his brother. So again,
it's another ritual.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. Yeah, Tony Scott, great life, millionaire, and yet it wound up he didn't like what was going on.
Those are two separate functions, and once you separate who you are from the things that you achieve and the money that you've got, you see that it's still important to be a good person and be happy and have the right behaviors, and then do set those goals to have profit, do set those goals to be prosperous. And there's somebody that, that's real local to us that has explored that more so than I've seen of anybody outside of my industry ever.
And who's that?
That's Jake.
Yeah, Jake, of course. Jake is the owner of the studio here.
I've never seen that outside of our industry ever before.
Okay, so real quick, let's finish off things, and without getting, because we can't get into the personal end of things, because Jake is a businessman. He's an incredible piece to the rigorous recovery of downtown and Jefferson County. What is it about Mr. Johnson that's so impressed you from the word get go?
It's the way that he focuses and clears himself away from the focus.
Right.
So he doesn't get himself wrapped up, from what I've seen.
Yeah, sure.
He might have flashes of it like we all do,
of course.
but he doesn't get him doing and being
stressed like everybody else. Yeah.
So who he is and the things that he do are two different aspects of his life. That's what I've noticed from him, and the way that he's spoken to me, and when he spoke to my son, and that's why I was impressed by him. I didn't even realize how big he was until after that, but just the way that he communicated. So remember, what I want to start to close on is the fact that everything that goes on, whether it's working for you or not just you, everybody,
I understand,
is a ritual. We're dominated by rituals, right? And at some point in time, that step-by-step process, that ritual that you're in that has more byproduct that's bad than is giving to you that's good, is going to need to change. That's why we're doing this. So you can just, use your imagination when Glenn and I are speaking, when we're speaking to other folks. That's the important thing. Use your imagination to exactly what you want your life to be, what different versions of yourself you can create,
right,
and how you can not take things too seriously and just have fun with it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of times, always in the back of our minds, we're always thinking, boy, if life were just easier. But then you got, I got my kid's going in college, and I have a $4,000 payment to make in 30 days. There's always something that's going to interrupt ourselves when we start thinking or putting ourselves at ease. Or am I being too fundamentally, simplistic about this?
So that's anxiety. So that's using your brain in a way that tries to keep you safe, but will damage you. Now, we actually have a product coming out here. I have something coming out, a message, let's say it is. It's a recording that has to do with that process and using it to your advantage and actually spinning it the way that it works best for you. But frankly, if your kid's 18, you should be paying for their college because they're already 18.
Right. Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of people do.
Totally. Like a lot of people do it, and I think they do it wrong.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes your college.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But remember, it's like, but he's my best friend, so we have to do this. So that's not a good thing either, right? You're not your son's best friend.
No, not at all. He'd say that I'm a giant pain in the ass. So the thing is, though,
right.
It's the other lessons that he takes because he wants to be a father one day too.
Sure.
So sometimes we got to do tough stuff. You know,
no, without a doubt.
I just finally got him to shave his mustache so it would grow back thicker.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, you can't just grow it.
Right.
That's not the kind of complexion we have. You got to shave it at least once a week.
Well, he's 15. It's peach fuzz at this point anyway, and he's trying to be.
I don't know, man. He's doing well. Better than I expect. Better than I did. I couldn't get a mustache or a full beard until I was in boot camp.
I'm 58 years old, and I still can't grow a mustache.
I can't.
And by the way, have you ever? I'm doing the Paulie Walnuts thing here. I've never in my life had a mustache or beard. Have you?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
There's a picture of me on YouTube actually with a full beard.
What, you look like a 70s porno star? Or
No.
Michael Douglas from the Streets of San Francisco, or
it was well groomed. It was
China syndrome.
It's a picture from when I was on Bridge Street Live.
Okay.
And I did some stage hypnosis there, and I did some tricks with an intern who asked me to. She invited me on. So, so I did. And when I was in college, I had mutton chops, but the key was that I kept my hair long and I had it dyed blonde, and it went over my ears so it looked like I could grow sideburns because I have the Kirnie curse of having 1.5 inches of no sideburns on the side of my face. But you couldn't tell because I had the hair over my face, so it just looked like I had big, thick mutton chops.
Right.
Well, that was 2006. So right. What are you going to do?
Were you going to try out for Young Guns or something?
I used to like to wear a lot of, I was really thin too. I think I was eating raw.
All right, so one thing we didn't talk about, obviously, and we're just concluding here, we're at the hour, is that you are a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Did that help your life? Did that shape who you were?
I think so. There's some byproduct to that, but the discipline and the ability to handle adversity, regardless of how much it sucks, is always there. I want to say that I can do things with no sleep, but that's not the case.
Right.
Too old for that.
Would you want your son or daughters or anyone you're associated with to join the Marines or the military?
Well, if they had to, not my daughters, but I would definitely.
What's that?
Not my daughters. I would never suggest my daughters go into the military. But I would. If they had other things going, if they didn't have other things going, I'm telling you that it sorts a lot of things out. it allows you to be a part of something regardless of the how it's politicized.
Right.
So in the local levels, the units are always very tight.
Right.
And it is the world's strongest and most powerful fraternity in history. So,
It is. It truly is.
also, I can clean better than anyone you know. As a man, I swear to God, I had to clean so much that I can make something spotless very, very quickly.
All right, so you like Richard Gere when he's got the toothbrush and he's or Forrest Gump with Bubba.
Yeah, I'm just fast. Yeah.
The only thing I know about the military, other than being in a military community, is from movies, and that's very pathetic on my part. But I always respect anyone who's been in any branch of the military, particularly the Marines. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right. So anything else to conclude here on our first episode of the Get Real podcast with Josh Kirnie and Glenn Kirnie?
So here in our flagship flagship podcast here, I do want to talk about, to make sure that people realize it's good to be frustrated to a certain extent, and that's what we're going to talk about a lot, is not getting out of it but going through it, going through the frustration and punching through it and getting to what you want, realizing that living in a hamster wheel sucks.
Right.
There's no reason to stay with any kind of problems that you've got.
Right.
Be aggressive, make a change, have an imagination, create a picture of the future that you can chase because it's compelling.
Right.
You can actually feel it first, and then you'll get it. And that's what we're going to talk about.
Awesome. Well, that was Josh Kirnie. This is Glenn Kirnie from our own H2O studios here, high above. Actually, we're on the second floor of Public Square, overlooking Public Square here in Watertown, New York. And if you want to be a part of this at any given time, give us a shout here. We have information posted here on this particular post on this social media platform, or you can give us a phone call direct. I'll give you my phone number. It's 315-783-7903. I'm Glenn Kirnie, Josh Kirnie, for everyone here on Public Square, driving through here in the most historic public square in America. We hope you have a good day. We'll see you soon.